change is the only constant. So be open to it. Hey y'all, welcome to Meryl's Mystic. I'm Meryl, and I empower witches, bitches, and dudes to complete themselves in order to have healthier soulmate relationships and more purpose-filled lives. And today we're here to talk about upcoming Cancer season. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, right as I start, the train is going by. You can probably hear the train. I have to have the windows open because my house is almost 100 years old, and it's hot in Colorado right now, and I can't have the fan in here because then you wouldn't be able to hear me. So you get a little more skin this time, because I kept trying to wear my little cute little shrouds that I have, but it is way too hot, and I spent way too much time on this face to let it sweat off. So I wanted to share with you also kind of my style of reading, because I haven't really done that lately. I am a certified tarot reader. I am an astrology junkie. I've been doing astrology longer, but I don't have a full scope knowledge of it. For some reason, I'm still like grasping all the houses and the conjunctions and like the whole chart thing. It's a lot. But I know enough to connect it with a lot of the tarot stuff. And then I'm also a psychic medium, and I've been really focusing on strengthening those skills that I have. And so there's a combination of reading the cards, but also just like receiving and hearing the messages from my guides and your guides, and just the universe and the divine in general. And also I've been really tapping into the messages that I've been just receiving over the last like decade or so, when I really kind of started being on this path. And the image of the bridge always comes up for me. There's very much, my purpose on this earth is to be a healer. And that really means to help empower you to heal yourself, and to be a bridge from the physical to the spiritual, and also to be a mirror. And that is why I share a lot of personal stories with you, is because I'm hoping that my experience and all the lessons I've been learning are gonna shine some light on maybe your experiences and the lessons that you're meant to learn here also. Because I truly believe that we're meant to come to Earth to do work together. This is where the work happens. This is where the lessons are learned. And so my goal is to share the natural energy with you during these natural cycles, because I really believe the more we're in touch with that, then we're more in tune with ourselves. And the more we're in tune with ourselves, the more we can be in harmony with each other in the collective. So anyway, here we are. It is almost the summer solstice. It's warming up, so it's almost officially summer. So it is the start of Cancer season, and Cancer season goes from June 21st to July 22nd, and it is represented by the crab, and it is a cardinal sign because we are at the beginning of a season, and all the cardinal signs are at the beginning of seasons. So Cancer season really helps. Gemini season ushered out spring, and Cancer season ushers in summer. So the other cool thing about Cancer season starting is the day after, on June 22nd, Mercury goes direct. I think it's still in Gemini. I don't know for how long, but there will be like a 2 to 3 week shadow period after that. So although it's great to hear that it's gone direct, because this was quite a retrograde. It was kind of the retrograde of retrogrades, and there were definitely many times where I was like, I know how to go through retrograde. I've practiced this, and I'm gonna take anything that comes at me and any delays, with grace, and that was of course my goal. And I was sharing that with you also, because it really does help get through without like having any major breakdowns. And I don't want it to sound like I'm that person who's like blaming retrograde. However, these things do seem to just happen. I mean, it's just this is cosmic energy. We're affected by the cycles of the moon. Like, our bodies are mostly water. The oceans are connected to that. Like, Mercury is a very close planet. Like, we have like the chemicals of stars in us. So to think that we have no connection and that it has no effect on us just kind of seems silly to me at this point, when there is some science to back up our connection to the universe and to the planets. So just be aware, like, when it goes direct, we don't want to be just like, yeah, like, even though, like, we want to remember that there's still kinks being worked out in those last couple weeks, if there were some lessons that you didn't learn, and nobody comes out of it unscathed, is my point. I've definitely had my moments, but I've definitely, the more retrogrades go on, and the more I'm just kind of tapped into it and prepared, I have less moments during it. And also, it just gives me a little bit of peace of mind, and it has kind of allowed me to just, like, not try to control so much. And that's a lot about it, is, like, really just, like, trusting where you are, trusting that you're supported by the universe and spirit and the divine, and that these things are happening for a reason, too. These delays are happening for a reason. The miscommunications are happening for a reason. It's funny because I was trying to think of an example of when these things are meant to happen. And the thing I thought about, I can't say for sure that this happened to me during retrograde, but it was a very retrograde, or I should say Mercury retrograde, because not all retrogrades are the same. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But this was a very Mercury retrograde moment. I was like 24, I think. Yeah, I would have been about 24, 25. My mom, I lived in New York for a couple years, and when I decided I wanted to come home, because I was too sensitive for New York, it was great, but it was too much. My mom came and picked me and all my stuff up, and we've been doing road trips for all my life, so she's like a pro driver across country, and she just, like, got her snacks. She barely ever has to stop to pee. Like, she just, like, drives. And she picked me up, and so we packed all my stuff up, and we decided to, like, make a trip of it on the way back. Like, we love road trips. What are we going to see on the way back? So, of course, from New York to Colorado, we had to stop at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, Ohio. And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is actually in Cleveland, Ohio, because that's where the first rock and roll radio station came from. And if you ever remember the Drew Carey show, like, and their whole thing about, like, Cleveland rocks, like, there's a history there of kind of where rock and roll music, like, the expansion of it really started. And I love rock and roll. I love all music, but there's so many aspects to rock and roll, and it's heavily its influence is so heavy in other types of music. And on a side note, I highly recommend the PBS documentary Rumble, because that really explores how the majority of our rock and roll and, like, rhythm and blues music actually is, its roots are mostly with Native Americans, and there's a lot of roots to rock and roll music that is directly tied to Native American indigenous tribes drumming and the rhythms of their drumming. And it's really cool. Rumble, like, deep history of rock and roll documentary. Go watch it. Understand where your music comes from. Miles Davis is also the reason why we have, like, electronic music and jam bands. So go watch a documentary about Miles Davis too. Anyway, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Cleveland, Ohio. I am, like, we are so excited. we called my brother when he was there, and he's like, how dare you call me? I'm so jealous. Like, I can't believe you guys would go without me. And we're like, it was an opportunity. I'm so sorry. Like, and so we're walking up to it, and it's this really cool, like, pyramid-shaped building, and they have, like, a featured artist on one floor of the museum. And the featured artist was Bruce Springsteen. And, you know, nothing against the boss if you are a Bruce Springsteen fan, but I am not the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan. And there's definitely, like, I appreciate his contribution to music a little bit more now. There's a couple of his songs I really like, and there's a couple of his songs that I really like that other bands cover, and I'm a fan of other bands that have been influenced by him, but at the time I was like, I do not like Bruce Springsteen. I don't care that much about the boss, about this, like, white boy American dream. Like, even then I was just like, blah. So we walk up, and it's fucking Bruce Springsteen, and I'm just like, really? Really right now? Like, his face is, like, on this banner on the building, and I'm just so, like, oh, like, my mom's like, come on, like, it's okay, like, we just won't go on that level. And I'm like, yeah, but now we're not going to see the whole, like, museum. So that place is way bigger than you think it is, and there's so much to look at. I mean, my mom and I were literally, like, tearing up when we walked in there because of, you feel so close to these artists that have just, like, helped shape our lives and our society. I think we don't even, I mean, we give, like, musicians and stuff a lot of credit, but even then, like, there's so much influence there. And it turned out that we didn't even have time to see the whole museum. And guess what floor we were able to miss? Bruce Springsteen. So it worked out. That's my point. Short story long. My point is that I initially saw this obstacle as, like, an affront to me and my experience and like all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, when I was young, I took it really personal, and I didn't let it, like, really, I hope I didn't. Looking back now, I don't think I let it completely overshadow the whole experience. But it wasn't until the end where I was like, well, you know, we were like, well, this is perfect, because if that had been somebody that I really admired, like if it had been like Prince or something, like, I would have been so sad if I would have been even sadder than it being the boss if I had to, like, miss any part of that museum. 'Cause it was such a great experience. And I could have, they don't let you take pictures in there. And I could have sworn I took a secret picture of Pink Floyd's The Wall. Like, they have, like, an actual wall in there. And I don't know what happened to that picture. So, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's doing something. Anyway, just joking. So I'm sharing this story with you because I hope that it relates to something that you're going through. That a lot of these things that we think are happening to us, in fact, in the bigger grand scheme of things, a lot of the time are happening for us. And unfortunately, there are some really horrible things that do happen to us. And that's, you know, when we become victimized. But there's a lot of things out there that we get so worked up over that really aren't worth our energy, and that a lot of time work out in the long run. So I hope that gives you, like, a little bit of perspective about what all these lessons and what, like, everything that's kind of, like, been stirring up is really there for. So, speaking of retrogrades, and how retrogrades, depending on what planet it is and what sign it is, can be very different and can give us a very different energy. Each planet has a different energy associated with it. Each sign has a different energy associated with it. So on June 20th, right before we begin Cancer season, Jupiter goes retrograde in Pisces, and then it switches to Aquarius on July 28th. Happy birthday, Mom. Until October 18th. And so Jupiter retrograde is not something to be, afraid of. Like we kind of get afraid of Mercury retrograde. I noticed that the witchy spirit world is really trying to like get people to stop fearing it so much. Like we joke about it and like all this kind of stuff, but like there's really magical things that happen during it that are supposed to happen that really help us like on our path in life and what our path of purpose and where we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing. So Jupiter in retrograde will be really nice, especially in Pisces and Aquarius. These are the two most evolved signs, and they really like Pisces really sees the world through rose-colored glasses, and Aquarius is the philosopher, and they're both kind of like weird, but in good ways. I've seen, even though like you're really not supposed to, like water and air is not supposed to go together, and you're really not supposed to be with someone like in romantic relationships of the sign right next to you. Pisces and Aquarius, though, I've seen go differently. There's like something about they both have like such a deep understanding of their own emotions usually, and also of just like sitting back and letting people be who they are. And so with retrogrades, like that means that the planet is seemingly moving backwards through these signs. So when we kind of start out, it's going to be a nice little Jupiter and Pisces, like very loving. Both these signs are very expansive. There's some dreaminess to Pisces. So I feel like it's gonna really kind of bring up more creative goals, or it's gonna bring up like those like secret subconscious goals and visions for your life that you want. And then it's gonna show and then as it's moving in Aquarius, we're really gonna be looking at how do we make that a reality? What are the things that have happened to you, especially during this entire, and we're only in Cancer season, Aries season is the beginning of the astrological season, and there's so much that has happened, and so much of clearing the way for everybody to really kind of show you where you're supposed to be. It just felt like a little bit more direct energy after the last year of the pandemic and us not knowing what's going to happen, where are we going to be, and it's still feeling a little bit like we're still not sure what the future looks like, but we're all personally kind of getting a little bit more focused on just who we want to be and how we want to show up in this world and what kind of impact do we want to make. And so we're really going to keep diving into that, which is really cool. As we go on, we're just going to get deeper and deeper into ourselves and more connected to the natural energies of the world. And there's a lot of just powerful transitions going on. And I'm sure you felt a lot of that. Gemini season was just full of so much energy. And it really challenged our communication with ourselves, with each other, really looking at, how things can be improved. Do you want to improve them? Do you just need to walk away from this? Do you need to let people walk away? So there's so many, I don't want to say challenges, definitely challenges that come up from it, but a lot of reflections about the duality of life, the spectrum of life, looking at our cognitive dissonance, having to look at that, and also sometimes having to hold two different ideas at the same time and trying to find the middle ground of them. A lot of alchemic, mercurial. I love that word, but I can never say it. Mercurial, which is perfect. Gemini is ruled by Mercury. We had a really strong Mercury in retrograde in Gemini. So It's meant, these things are meant to move you. It's meant to shake you up so that you're not stuck where you're not supposed to be. So, let me know where you're at. Let me know how retrograde went for you. Comment below. And then one last thing before we get into your tarot scope. I want to talk about where Cancer shows up in tarot. In the major arcana, Cancer is represented by the Chariot. I love the Chariot. The Chariot's one of my favorites. The Chariot actually showed up to me when it told me that we were supposed to be in this house. We just were so torn when we were house hunting that I started pulling cards for each house, like when we thought we were going to make an offer, like what's this supposed to be? And it was crazy how clear it was that, like, no, this is not it. And then Chariot came up for where we were supposed to be, home. And I feel like the Chariot and the Four of Wands are like the ultimate, like, home cards. Like you are like where you're supposed to be. Home is where the heart is, all that sort of thing. And the Chariot is representative of Cancer because, like the Chariot, the crab carries its home wherever it goes. And Cancer is really good at that. Cancer is the baby water sign. They're the first water sign in astrology. And so their personal relationships and their home life is very important for them. And they really want to feel comfortable wherever they are. So they have a tendency to really seek out those environments and people that are going to make them feel comfortable and at home. And so if you have a Cancer in your life, you probably have seen what can happen when they don't feel stable. They can be very emotional because they are a water sign. And unfortunately, they are known as they can be known as a little bit of a crybaby of the astrology when they're in their shadow. But they are very loving, usually. I was going to say open. They're open. It takes a while for them to open up, but once they find people to open up to, the, like, floodgates just come out. So the Chariot's cool too because it's representative also of there's still some duality energy that we're even experiencing now, because we are still in the shadow of Mercury in retrograde. Over the beginning, like the first half of Cancer season, we're still being called into this duality energy and this expansion and contraction and how to be more purposeful with that, and how to be more purposeful, and to not just take any opportunity that's in front of us, and to only really go to places where we're comfortable going. And that's okay. These are a lot of what's going on too is about people learning what their own personal boundaries are. Oh, sorry, the neighbor's dogs are fighting. So, what was I going to say? Duality. Because here too with the Chariot, you have like the light and shadow representative, and sometimes it can be pulling you in different ways. But we're both. We have both. Like in indigenous traditions, they talk about like you have two wolves inside you, and which one are you going to feed? I'm sure you've heard that quote a lot. So this is very much about like choosing paths of the heart. But just like a lot of the time, that's just like what feels good to you. And if there's places that you're being invited to, or like opportunities that are coming to you and it just doesn't feel right, I'd say go with that. Especially now, like this is really about kind of being in our feels and not being ashamed of that, really trying to dissolve the people pleaser and putting ourselves first. And I think that can be kind of a challenge with Cancer because the people around them are so important to them, but this is going to be important for everyone because of boundaries. I remember what I was going to say earlier, because boundaries with other people are very important. But I've noticed lately that if you don't first have good boundaries with yourself, if you don't have boundaries with yourself, then how are you going to have good boundaries with other people? If you don't have boundaries set with yourself on how you're going to treat yourself or how you're going to prioritize yourself, then how can you tell somebody no when you don't want to do what they want you to do? Because then we get taken advantage of. Then we're putting ourselves in situations that are going to drain us and are not where we're supposed to be. Okay? So we're really needing, I mean, we always need to tap into this energy. I was like, well, we're really needing this Cancer energy right now. Well, of course we are. That's why we're in this cycle. Okay. So let's get into it. So I lied. One more thing before I get into your individual tarot scopes for the signs. I usually pull like a card for the collective at the end. And I know I think I pulled these last time, but I really was just called to pull one of these postcards from Spirit at the beginning for some reason. So let's do that. Dearest you, we are sending you waves of love and joy as we watch you reap the rewards of your tenacity and faith. We know how long it has taken for you to reach some of our goals, and that you've had disappointments along the way. Right now, we suggest you take a deep breath and fill yourself up with gratitude and tune into the vibration of well-being. Temporary conditions may be trying to hypnotize you into seeing something else as your reality, but we know that happy rewards are on their way to you even now. Change is the only constant, so be open to it. You will achieve your dreams and more, we promise. But more important, your happy rewards will be gathered up in the small moments, the gentle breezes, the soft kisses, and the quiet commitments. Your happiest moments will be on the journey itself, not in arriving at any destination. You are surrounded by so much love and care. Can you feel us? I love these so much. They really are like love notes from the divine and from Spirit. So funny, because that is literally the theme that we're just coming out with, is change is the only constant. And that is why we do need faith and tenacity. Faith can come up in many different ways. It's not just a religious word. We have to have faith in our families, in our jobs. We have to have trust and faith in ourselves. And trusting that things are really going to work out. It really does. The law of attraction, there really is something behind that. There really is something behind you get what you put out. Karmic law, there's so many explanations for it, different ways of expressing it, that energy. But I've definitely noticed in my many years of learning who I am spiritually and emotionally, that the more I trust things are going to work out, and I do focus on the good, and I find gratitude in for what I have, the more things work out. And I can say that because I was that person for a long time. My mom tried to tell me what the secret was when that came out, and I rolled my eyes. It's like, there's no way that this is a thing. There's no way, like, shit just happens, and I'm just doomed to have shitty things happen to me. And the more I thought that, the more they happened. And the more I realized that I got it pretty good, and I found things to be thankful for, the more that it worked out. All right, let's do this. Hi, Aries. So glad you're here. Well, I guess let's just go with this. Kind of came out weird. And at first I was like, well, that's what Leo got, so can't be for Aries, but that's bull. Because you're both fire signs, so there can of course be similarities in how you tap into this energy, and it's coming up in reverse for you, so it's still different. So let's explore that. So, how's everything been since your season, Aries? How have you been navigating all this very powerful energy? Now that you just turned another year older, you're a couple months into that new age, new phase of life. And the Eight of Pentacles is really about, like, self-mastery. And even, making money and figuring out how to make our own money. And it does feel like, Aries are very independent. You're very independent, so a lot of you could probably easily work for yourselves. But with it in reverse, it does kind of feel like you're kind of questioning where you're at or your abilities. It's making me see the Seven of Pentacles also, which is the card before. So maybe you're not even, like, quite ready for this step. It's like you can see it, but it's not quite time. It's not quite time to reach fruition yet. Your seeds are still gestating. Like, your seeds are growing. And you still need to tend to them in whatever ways need to be tended to them before you can actually, like, see the fruits of your labor. And it feels like you're probably in a place where you're just, like, ready. Like, okay, because we know that you don't always have the best patience, Aries. Like, okay, I did the thing. I planted the seeds. I watered it. It's got some, look, it's growing. So, where's my vegetables? Bitch is hungry. Well, we can't force the veggies to grow, You can't force the result. You can't just, like, force yourself to the destination. Unfortunately, we are not I Dream of Jeannie, and we cannot just make things happen with oh no, that was Bewitched. She did her nose. I Dream of Jeannie she made the wishes come true. But please tell me you know what I'm talking about. This is before my time. And I'm talking, like, original old sitcom TV's shows of these women characters who could just magically make things happen, and I wish that's how it worked in real life, but this is not a TV show. We are playing the game of life, but it is not the game show of life, unfortunately, and things work in real time out here, and real time is on its own time. So what do we do till then? Well, you focus on yourself. And Cancer season is actually giving a huge, like, push of universal permission for everybody, including you, to focus on yourself. And usually you're pretty good about that, Aries. But this is like in a little bit more in like a self-care place. Like, what do you know, are you actually ready for the fruits of your labor? Is there things that you need to do still to prepare for when you're in this place that you've been working towards? Are you are you ready? Ooh. Aha. They're trying to come out. Interesting. 3 of Pentacles in reverse. Only a few signs have gotten like 2 Pentacles. Otherwise, everyone's like Cups and Swords. It's either everyone's in their head or their heart, or they're really dealing with like how they exist in the physical. So this is really like how you exist, and not only that, but who do you exist with? Who are you interacting with? Who are you living this life with? Who are you playing this game with? And how are you balancing that? Because it feels like you're giving too much of something to something that doesn't, I hope that makes sense. You're giving too much energy and too much of yourself to something that really you shouldn't be. And the only way you're gonna stop doing that is to ask for help. And and it's really hard for you guys to ask for help too, because you're so independent. But this really feels like you're not gonna get to where you're trying to get to, the finish line, the proverbial finish line, because once we finish something, we have to begin something again. So this finish line goal that you're working towards, it just doesn't feel like you're gonna get there the way you want to on your own. And it's really gonna be time for you to like figure out where you're putting your energy, who's putting their energy in towards you, and who's like, it's really difficult to succeed on our own. Like, everybody needs support. So it is time for you to like employ a little bit extra support. I mean, maybe you even need like your friends and family and lovers to be there for distractions. Maybe it's like, I need a distraction, so I'm not even worried about this because like I'm doing everything I can already for it. And if I'm like doing too much, because there's also like with plants, like you can easily overwater them too. So it's like you need to like let things happen naturally. So whatever you can do to like create that space for yourself while you're working on this. It's an interesting like balance of action and inaction. And also preparation, so that when the fruits of your labor bloom, you're ready for it. So it does feel like you need to seek out some guidance from those that you trust and care about, seeking out advice. Oh, the cat wants out. Sorry, y'all. Seeking out advice from people that you look up to. Yeah. Just, there's parents, friends, teachers, online programs, influencers, online educators. You need to be reaching out to somebody to help you finally like focus on, it's like focusing and not focusing on what you're working on. Okay, let's do one of these. Let's do a Moonology card by Yasmin Boland. Okay. Ooh. Like, where is it? Why isn't it coming out yet? Like, I swear, y'all, these always, like, they even surprise me how right on they are. This is the gibbous moon. You're very close to achieving your goal. See? You're close. You're close. It's in this, we're like in a moment right now where it's like, stop trying so hard. Like, it's cool. It's gonna work out. Where are the moons? Here we go. What the hell? Excuse me. There's like 3 different moon sections in here, and they're all moon cards, so. Oh, here we go. This is the wrong section. Okay. You're very close to achieving your goal. The word gibbous means bulging. What a descriptive word, right? And pulling this card at any time of the month suggests the situation you're asking about is bulging with possibility and coming to a peak. But this isn't an ending card with a neat yes or no answer. Rather, you're being reminded that some adjustments may yet be required before you get what you want. Though you're certainly on the right track, which is hopefully reassuring for you. However, there is also a sense that the situation is a bit tense, so don't push too hard. It says it right there. See? One false move and the whole thing could blow. That's not meant to scare you. It's just to let you know there's a fuse attached to this situation, so be careful if you choose to light it. Attuning to this moon, the affirmation is, I know that I'm on the right track. Repeat after me, Aries. I know that I'm on the right track. Additional meanings for this card. Now is a good time to review your plans. Keep the momentum going as you move towards your dreams. Stay focused. It's a good time to start a new project. Not for you. I read this and then I'm like, no, not that one. You need to get back into good health habits. That one too. That one's a yes. The gibbous moon comes at the very end of the lunar cycle, just before the full moon. She looks like she's bulging because she's almost a full moon, so she's nearly fully rounded. It's the culmination of the waxing cycle and, as such, tends to be a rather intense period of the month. No matter when you pull this card, it suggests a very ripe time and a very ripe situation. How interesting that we compared that to gardening and vegetables. Yeah. I love when they're just like, cool, here it is. Sweet. Cool. Well, Aries, tell me what you're working on. And let me know if this helps. Like, hopefully I'm there's all these things going on that I'm just like, somebody please tell me what you're doing and how this applies to you, because like for general readings I don't get that many details, but something's happening, obviously, and you're near the end of it, so don't push it, because it also kind of feels like one of those things that like you've been working on it so long that like the end looks so good and you're like, oh, I'm almost there. But if you push to get to the end too quickly, you're gonna get there and you're gonna be like, oh, well, now it's over. And I forgot that I actually did this because I wanted to, and I really was enjoying it, and then I was so focused on the goal and the end and the destination that I forgot about the journey, and now it's over, you know? So just let it unfold naturally. Yep. Thank you, Aries. I will see you for Leo season. Well, that is your Taroscope for Cancer season 2021. Thank you again so much for being here. Please be sure to subscribe, hit that little notification bell, like, comment, share. I want as many people to know all of it. I am here for you. Hope to see you next time. Bye.